Hey YouTube frogs, and welcome back to another video. This time discussing my thoughts on the new artifact domain released in 1.5, granting access to two new artifact sets, Pale Flame and the Tenacity set. So this is the new dungeon released in 1.5. I wanted to share my thoughts on whether this set is worth for you to farm. So let's take a look. General overview on the stats. So Pale Flame, as you can see here, 2 set, physical damage is increased by 25%. 4-piece set, when an elemental skill, your E, hits an opponent, attack is increased by 9% for 7 seconds. This effect stacks up to twice and can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds. Once 2 stacks are reached, the 2-set effect, which is the physical damage bonus increased by 25, is increased by 100%. That just means that the physical damage bonus is increased from 25% to 50%. It does not mean 125%, it just means 50%. That's the Pale Flame set. I would view this as a direct upgrade to the Bloodstained set available in the Noblesse dungeon, which is over here, where same 2-piece set, physical damage plus 25%, but the 4-piece set for the Bloodstained I feel like is a lot worse. After defeating an opponent, increases the charge attack damage by 50%, but reduces the stamina cost to 0. So I view the Pale Flame as a lot more versatile and doesn't require you to spam your charge attack, which some characters you don't want to do that. Now moving on to the Tenacity set. This is our first HP-based 5-star set, with a unique twist on the 4 set, providing bulkier survivability via shield strength and a built-in Noblesse 20% attack buff that has very high uptime on the right units. So we see here 2-piece set, HP is increased by 20%. 4-piece set, when your E hits an opponent, the attack of all nearby party members is increased by 20%, which is equivalent to the Noblesse buff post-Q, and their shield strength is increased by 30% for 3 seconds. This effect every 0.5 seconds, and it can be triggered when the character is not even on the field. So say, for example, Fischl's E, or Zhongli's E, when you switch them out, their E is still persistent on the field. So that's a quick overview on the artifact sets. Let's quickly go over characters, potential units for either set. Let us begin first with the Pale Flame set. So I'm going to be going over in my recommendation from, I guess, least viable to most viable. Things might swap around. I'm just going off of my thoughts on every single unit in this game potential, right, that is actually viable to use this set on. So we're going to begin with Xiangling. Physical Xiangling is a viable build and has been something that people have been interested in building since the beginning of the game in 1.0. So like way back when we first started the game, you get Xiangling from the Spiral Abyss 3.3. Everyone was like, holy crap, Crescent Pike is such an OP weapon. And Xiangling was a user for this weapon. And so a lot of people invested in her in a kind of physical DPS manner. So we're going to talk about real quick on my thoughts on physical Xiangling. I think that it's very situational for her, the Pale Flame set. I think that 2 Pale Flame set is viable along with 2 Bloodstained. I think that is slightly better than 2 Gladiator, 2 Bloodstained, where 4 Bloodstained would not work on her at all. 4 Pale Flame I think is very situational because the E has multiple ticks on it, but the cooldown of the E is long. You can potentially get 4 Pale Flame up initially for a period of time, but then afterwards you're gonna have to wait and it's going to expire. So it's situational on her. I would still recommend that the amount of resin that you would need to farm this up is not worth it. I would still say 2 Bloodstained and 2 Pale Flame would be a better choice if you wanted to do it. We'll discuss viability of resin usage at a later point after I go through all the characters. Moving on to unique one, Physical Kaeya. I know there's some of you gamers out there who actually run Physical Kaeya. Now the thing is, with Physical Kaeya, there's 2 different builds. You can either go a 4 Blizzard freeze build because he does not shatter, or you can go a physical DPS build. So I think this is situational again. I think that his E has low enough uptime to be able to keep this up as physical DPS Kaeya. I think that 4 Pale Flame set does quote-unquote work on him. I would be hard-pressed to say whether or not this is better than 4 Blizzard. Personally, I feel like 4 Blizzard would be easier to play, right? So the great thing about freeze is that it provides a built-in CC, and also with the 4 Blizzard set, increases your crit rate by a massive amount. And with Crow units, you can also apply a double Crow on your team and give you more crit chance from the resonance. So I'm saying this is situational. I'll probably still recommend, if you do physical Kaeya, to go for Blizzard. Xinyan, I think this is also situational. I think that Xinyan's E can proc multiple times, but her E cooldown itself is a long time, right? So I think it's situational. I'm not very well versed in Xinyan, but I know that if you decide, I don't think 4 Pale Flame is better than 2 Noblesse, 2 Bloodstained because her Q is physical based. So I don't think it's personally worth it to farm for a new full set for her. I think that 2 Bloodstained, 2 Noblesse is perfectly fine, and it's not worth for you to refarm for her gear. That's on Xinyan. Physical Keqing. This one's a little bit interesting. So 4 Bloodstained is a build that I tried out before, and it works. It's pretty copium in the way it works. It's not the best build. It's very, if you have super good artifacts or if you've been farming since the beginning of time like I have, then potentially you have some good pieces from the Noblesse dungeon. With Keqing's E, one thing that you have to know that even though it says cooldown is 7.5 seconds here, when you activate her E and you don't double tap it, do a charge attack instead, having her sword be physical damage instead of electro, the cooldown already starts counting down when you first launch the E. If you just launch it, you just wait a little bit, that initial part does damage. And then if I charge attack and I blow it up, my cooldown is rather short. So you can see that if you did do Pale Flame, you could keep the uptime relatively high, but you need pretty good micro of the E. If you are well versed in Keqing and you want to play her physical based, it would require micro for you to maximize the Pale Flame. Because it is doable, right? You can see the cooldown provides enough that the E would continuously do damage, right? So not only does the E this do damage a little bit, when you slash, it does a little bit of an electro explosion here, which counts. So there's that. I would say physical Qing is more of a fun build, right? If you're looking for progression to Spiral Abyss, I would highly recommend electrical Qing, not physical Qing. Physical Qing is more if you want to have, if you want to enjoy a different playstyle. She's less flashy and she's more up in your face charge attack spam. So that's physical Keqing. Let's move on to units that I would deem are a little bit stronger. Physical Zhongli. Now I know definitely people out there who are running Crescent Pike physical Zhongli. This is for you guys. I would say that Pale Flame set 4-piece is strong on him. I think the uptime is fairly high. His shield grants him even further physical res reduction on nearby enemies. You can use Crescent Pike to maximize more DPS. There's a lot of spear options to do this. So if you are doing physical Zhongli, then I feel like 4 Pale Flame set is a good choice. Would I view it as better than 2 Bloodstain and 2 Gladiator or 4 Bolide? That's situational, right? I feel like 4 Bolide is stronger than the Bloodstain portion, grants shield strength, but damage-wise is weaker than the 4 Pale Flame. It's harder to farm. Now, that being said, 4 Bolide and 4 Pale Flame, both of these are not the easiest to farm, right? I think that if you're running 4 Bolide, you might be running a double Geocomp anyway, and you need Petra pieces, so there's that. 4 Pale Flame is linked with Tenacity set, so if you want to switch your Zhongli over to a supportive set, I guess that's also viable. So both of them are situational, but I wanted to mention for all those physical Zhongli users that it is strong. My opinion is that 4 Pale Flame set is very hard to farm, but if you do manage to get a solid 4 set, it would be a strong physical option for him. Razor, everyone's favorite wolf boy, and I know a lot of FTP and budget gamers have been using Razor. Excellent set for him. I don't think it should be any surprise. Before Pale Flame, with the way that Razor works with proccing his E into his Q resetting his E and his talent decreasing the cooldown of his E, makes it very easy to get your 2 procs very quickly, right? So you can do EQE for immediate full proc on Razor, and then all of his ulti is under the all of his Q is under the benefit of 4 Pale Flame. So excellent set for him, probably the strongest set out of all the sets for him. IMO, I'm not sure, I don't actually, you can see my Razor's level 1. But this is my opinion. 2 Bloodstain, 2 Gladiator, or 4 Gladiator were previous options that people had. 2 Bloodstain, 2 Gladiator is the most friendly option. It requires the least amount of decent artifacts. 4 Gladiator is hard to farm because it's from your world bosses. 4 Pale Flame, you need 4 set. In the medium in between, if you're investing a lot into Razor, building him with the max amount of investment, you can start with 2 Bloodstain, 2 Pale Flame. So right, 2 Bloodstain, 2 Pale Flame would grant you both 25% physical from both sets. So 25% would give you 50% physical. I view that as stronger as the 80% attack buff from Gladiator. So consider that as an alternative. But yes, it's excellent on Razor. And lastly, physical Fischl. The set is also excellent on her if you can grab it. So Fischl's E is Oz, and Oz attacks relatively frequently. You would basically have Pale Flame up all the time. You don't even have to think about it. I think that the physical version of this set, Pale Flame, is designed with her in mind. Not only is it really easy, but you don't have to think too much. You don't have to micromanage your skills. So excellent choice for physical Fischl. Alternatives: 2 Bloodstain, 2 Gladiator. If you saw my Fischl build that destroyed the Abyss, that was using really godly 2 Bloodstain, 2 Gladiator pieces. I think a transition period would be 2 Bloodstain into 2 Pale Flame, and then eventually, if you want to farm it, 4 Pale Flame would be the strongest version of Fischl currently available in 1.5. So that is all the Pale Flame units. You guys can see that with the Pale Flame set, there are 2 decent units that are viable. Razor and Fischl are the strongest. Physical Zhongli is decent with it. So, with the discussion of Pale Flame done, let's move on to Tenacity set. You guys know that the Tenacity set is focused on HP based, right? So, units that come to mind, and I'm going to be spamming these units across the screen, then we'll go over them one by one. First, we have I know this is weird. Barbara for 2 set. We have Albedo for Geo Supremacy. We have Diona, which is situational and actually something that I want to talk about with her, which I think people might be baited into farming for. I actually don't think it's that viable on her. Hu Tao, 2 set. Support Fischl, 4 set. And then Zhongli. I know. It's weird. Barbara, 2 set. It's an option for her healing scaling. Other options would be 4 Maiden, which I heavily do not recommend you farm. I think the 4 Maiden is one of the worst sets in the game. It's combined with Viridescent set. Viridescent set is very good, but it's situational depending on if you're actually running Anemo characters or not. Because Anemo characters are standalone units that can be added to mostly any team comp, but are not required for certain comps to work. With that being said, 2 set Tenacity, standard HP percent. I don't need to say much more. If you want to run Barbara, if your Barbara is your main healer, especially as an F2P, then 2 set Tenacity and then 2 set Maidens, I think would be better than 4 set Maidens. That's just my opinion because 4 set Maidens is hard to build, and that's just my recommendation. Albedo. This is a very unique build. I think that only if you're in the later stages of the game that you want to flesh out Albedo with the Harbinger of Dawn defense-based build, where his E does his maximum amount of damage. Tenacity set is optional for Geo Supremacy. So if you're running multiple Geo characters, then it's a viable option. The alternative to this is 2 Petra, 2 Blank. Could be 2 Defenders or 2 Noblesse. I currently run my Albedo on 2 Petra, 3 off pieces right now. It's probably because I switched off of the Geo damage bonus piece onto somewhere. I don't know, but typically I'd be running 2 Noblesse, 2 Petra. 4 Tenacity would be buffing your crystallized shield strength and providing a noblesse buff. I mean, it's theoretically stronger for his support capabilities, so I'm going to leave that out there if you want to run it, but you need 4 pieces, so have fun and good luck. Diona. Now, so Diona is, well, if you guys are playing in 1.5, you should be receiving at least 1 Diona from the event that is going on. This is situational. You guys might be reading the Tenacity set and being like, oh, wait, Mr. Xlice, isn't the 4-piece set really good? The 2-piece set, HP percent, does buff her shielding quite a bit. And the 4-piece set gives you both the benefits of the Noblesse buff that I originally recommended and the shield strength to increase the potency of her E-shield. The problem is she cannot proc this that often. I currently recommend a Favonius build, which is recharged for the entire team. Her E talent at the very minimum is a 6-second cooldown. That means that with this set, which buffs your shield strength for 3 seconds when you proc it, means that on paper, it's 50% uptime. You press it for 6 seconds, you get a 3-second buff on your shield, and you swap to someone, and boom, you have that up. And then when the shield's gone, then you switch back to Diona and you proc it again. The problem is you're losing about 0.5 to 1 second swapping from character to character. You're probably losing about half a second. That means the uptime from the E is actually much less. Not only that, but in order to maximize the Tenacity set for her, you need to play it basically perfectly and swap to her every 6 seconds to maximize it. To mitigate this problem, if you don't run Favonius Warbow, you can't do Sacrificial. Sacrificial, I think, is a cop-out. It's a band-aid. It's not an actual solution to the 4 Tenacity set. Even with Sacrificial, the uptime is still going to be relatively low. At most, I would say 50% uptime on the Tenacity set, which I think is not worth to run. I would still recommend you run 4 Noblesse for basically permanent Q Noblesse buff uptime. Also, with Favonius, it also synergizes with getting her Q back. So that's my recommendation. I still recommend people still run 4 Noblesse with HP scaling, a little bit of crit rate to make sure that Favonius bow is procced. You can see my stats right here. 65 crit rate, 0 crit damage, and a bunch of recharge, and about 200% HP. That's my Diona. I'll probably be switching her to HP at some point. So triple HP once I swap off this piece. With that being said, if you do decide to go Sacrificial Bow, I think it's hard to farm and it's not that great uptime. So I'm saying it's very situational. I wouldn't recommend it though. I would still recommend staying with Noblesse. That's Diona. I wanted to touch a little bit more about Diona because I feel like she's a little bit more unique in this situation. Hu Tao. You guys might be thinking, wait, Mr. Streamer, why am I running this? We know that 4 Crimson is a very strong Crimson DPS for Hu Tao. Problem is 4 Crimson is one of the most hellish dungeons to farm in this game. And also you need 4 decent pieces to maximize her damage output. Now that being said, you can still use 4 Crimson with some 2 set pieces and stuff, and you still be doing a massive amount of damage. If you only want 2 Crimson and you're tired of farming Crimson Dungeon, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you gamers who have Pyro DPS are like, bro, I hate Crimson Dungeon. Trust me, I know. I had to farm for Yanfei, Klee, Hu Tao, originally, maybe even Diluc at some point. But yeah, so 2 set Crimson, 2 set Tenacity is a viable option. The other options are 2 Crimson, 2 Noblesse. Best option, 4 Crimson. I'm just throwing it out there. You have 2 set Tenacity, and you have HP scaling pieces, good crit rate, crit damage, a little bit of recharge, maybe some elemental mastery. You can do 2-piece Tenacity, 2-piece Crimson on Hu Tao. That's what I wanted to bring up regarding the set with her. Let's move on to the 2 units I view are the strongest for this set. Fischl. This is for support Fischl. Okay, so with support Fischl, 2 set Tenacity is useless, but 4 set Tenacity gives you shield strength and gives you permanent noblesse buff. I think it's strong on her, but I would still recommend you run a damage-based one, like 2 Thundering or 4 Thunder Soother, or 2 Thundering, 2 Glad, something like that. I would only ever recommend 4 Thunder Soother if you have really good pieces with Electrocharge. I do not recommend it under any other situation. It's a very hellish piece to farm. You need 4 set. Don't recommend. So I would think that if you already have 4 pieces, it's viable on her. But otherwise, I would stick with the damage-based ones. Lastly, Zhongli. This set was meant for him. With Zhongli's rerun at 1.5, I mean, come on. HP-based, and also his pillars, when they stay on the field, they proc very often. Grants shield strength and noblesse buff. It's meant for him. Now, the thing is it worth the resin? In my opinion, it's not worth the resin to farm a 4-piece set for him. If you just want Zhongli to be a shield buffer, you can just put 4-star pieces and just do HP, 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 and that's fine. I think that Zhongli's damage potential as a Q spammer every 12 seconds is so high. 2 Tenacity and 2 Noblesse. That I think is okay. I mean, that's a great build. I used to recommend 2 Petra, 2 Noblesse, which I still think is his strongest DPS build. Problem is, 2 Petra requires you to farm the Geo dungeon, which is Petra and Bolide dungeon. Now that this dungeon's out, I would say that 2 Tenacity, 2 Noblesse is easier to farm. All right, so that covers all the units. Zhongli, obviously, 4 set is meant for him, but it's hard to farm. 2 Noblesse is 2 Tenacity is a good alternative. And we already went through Pale Flame on him and all that stuff. So that wraps up potential units for either set, both the Pale Flame and the Tenacity set. So the big question is the new Ridge Watch dungeon worth your resin? In my opinion, not really, but with exceptions. The players looking to progress through the game, Noblesse dungeon still stands as the most efficient source of resin usage. Noblesse is the most versatile set used on almost all supports, and the 2 set is the most flexible option for any character with a Q that does damage. For physical DPS, 2 set Bloodstain and 2 set Gladiator has been the bread and butter since the beginning of the game. That was the set that I was using in my Fischl video. If you've already been farming the Ridge Watch prior to this video for your physical DPS and have a good 2-piece Pale Flame set, that's okay. You didn't waste resin. However, maybe I would recommend you consider taking a break and going back to the Noblesse dungeon so that you can begin farming for your supports and temporarily complete your physical DPS with 2 set Pale Flame and 2 set Bloodstain for nearly the same stats. You only lose at worst 18% attack and still maintain 50% physical, 25% from the Bloodstain and 25% from the Pale Flame. Now, let's get into some exceptions. Now, these exceptions are where it may be resin efficient. So, if you main a physical DPS, i.e. Fischl or Razor, and you run Zhongli as a shield support, and maybe even have Albedo, the more physical main DPS you run while also owning Zhongli makes this dungeon more efficient for you. Both sets would be valuable on your characters, making the resin usage efficient. So 4 Pale Flame set on your physical main DPS and 4 set Tenacity on your Zhongli and even maybe your Albedo would make resin usage on this dungeon not seem like the worst in comparison to, like, for example, other dungeons like Crimson where you wouldn't prioritize Lava Walker, or for example, if you farmed for Xiao before and you were trying to get Viridescent Venerer pieces and you knew that Maiden Beloved was something that you basically, every single piece that you got there was a dead piece. With that being said, in this specific case where you do main physical DPS and have Zhongli and you do want to invest in Zhongli as a shield support, then this is perfectly fine. Now, gets into the second exception. You're already done with 36 Star Abyss. So, you've been playing, for example, since the start of the game, or you spend a little bit more money and you have all the characters that you want, and everything difficult that you want to achieve is done. Now you're looking forward to investing in maybe Eula that's upcoming and want to make her as strong as possible. Then, Pale Flame right now would be an okay source of resin usage because you're looking towards maximizing investment in a new character. Okay? This leads to the third exception, and this is the most important exception. You have favorite characters and want to make them as strong as they can be. Whether that's current characters or the upcoming Eula, you like maximizing investment in characters you enjoy playing. Spiral Abyss also may not really interest you. At the end of the day, this game is your oyster, right? It's not a PvP game, it's just a PvE game. It's free to play, so you can do whatever you want in the game and just have fun with it. Your enjoyment is what matters most. So if If that's the case, you know, by all means. All right, YouTube frongs. I hope that wraps up everything. I think from my side, that's everything I want to say about the new Ridgewatch dungeon. Hopefully, you guys have a little bit of a better feel on my opinions on the set usage on various characters on both Pale Flame and Tenacity set, and also my recommendations on resin efficiency and whether or not this dungeon is worth it or not, and all the exceptions that are applied underneath. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate all the support on the recent videos on the YouTube channel, and I will see you guys next time.